Welcome to the Enneagram In a Movie video series. I'm TJ Dawe. I'm here with Sikora. We're going to be talking about Hallmark movies and preserving.
Is this a jump from our last video or not, TJ? I mean, we just talked about No Country for Old Men, and which is the harshest, most brutal, bare bones movie there is. And now we're going to talk about Hallmark. Why did we pick this?
Because it's a rich topic for our Enneagram spin-on. So even though it's a very different movie than No Country for Old Men, and even though as cinephiles it would be easy to be dismissive of Hallmark movies altogether and just say that there's fluff and that's all you need to know about them, there are some really interesting insights that these movies have to give us. And I say this with a total sample size of 2. I've watched 2 Hallmark movies in my life. But the thing that Hallmark movies are beloved for, as well as derided for, is that they're pretty similar.
Yes.
So I don't pretend to be an authority on Hallmark movies, but I can extrapolate from what I had seen.
Yeah. And, it's funny because, we're not talking about a specific Hallmark movie here. We're talking about the channel and the genre, right? And what that reflects. And it occurs to me, I don't think I've ever, you said you have a sample size of 2. I've never watched a full Hallmark movie, but it's something that's often on in the background in my house, right? Playing in the kitchen or, the bedroom or something with nobody really paying attention to it, right? It's just a kind of comforting, I wouldn't say white noise, but not that far off. And I think that speaks to what we're going to talk about here, right?
I present to you Her Royal Highness.
I want to try something different.
Nice parking.
Thank you.
What is more befitting for a princess getaway than a dude ranch? Especially when he's the dude.
You'd miss a spot right there.
Plot twist.
Wow, you look beautiful.
Giddy up.
A Royal Montana Christmas on Hallmark Channel.
So we see Hallmark movies as a strong example of the preserving instinctual bias. And Mario, what can you tell us about what that means?
Yeah, so the preserving instinctual bias is about nesting and nurturing, okay? And, when we talked about No Country for Old Men, we said, that's kind of hard to see quite the same way here. But these movies are all about nesting and nurturing. And what we mean by that is it's about the things that make us feel stable and comfortable and protected and safe and well-resourced and familiar and methodical, right? There's a methodical quality to the instinctual bias. There's a repetitive process sort of oriented mindset that happens here. So what preservers are looking for, we don't call it self-preservation because it's about more than that, right? It is about preserving writ large. I want things to be stable, consistent, like they were when I was a kid, like they will be tomorrow if I have anything to do with it, right? Everything is safe. Everything is comfortable. Everything will be fine.
So that plays out in Hallmark movies, given that most of them are about Christmas. And many of them involve returning home to the place where the protagonist grew up. And that home is, among other things, very comfortable. Yeah. So it's never in a town that's dying. It's never a town that has been
It's not going to be in Reading,
Walmart.
Pennsylvania, right? Where the steels get shut down. Yeah.
Exactly. There's no unemployment.
Yeah.
There's nobody's unhoused. Nobody's struggling to pay their bills.
Right.
Also, there's a thriving community.
Yes.
It's full of small businesses that are doing great. And it's full of talented people who know each other and say hello to each other and have it's basically Springfield in The Simpsons.
Right.
It's this idealistic small town.
Yeah. Or like Lake Wobegon, right? Is the image that came to my mind. And, the other thing I thought of too, unless it's a Christmas movie where snow is a plot point, the temperature is always perfect outside, right? The weather is always nice. The temperature, nobody's ever cold, nobody's ever hot, right? It's all ideal.
The houses are very nice. They're sizable. They're not mansions. They're not opulent. But they're very comfortable. They're well decorated, and they're decked out with Christmas decorations.
Yes,
because somebody, if not everybody, in these movies loves Christmas. They love Christmas traditions. There's some family ritual or community ritual that is participated in with gusto. People look forward to it. No, there's no naysayer. There's no one person who's never really liked Christmas.
Right.
It's like, here's this thing that we love, and let's do it together. We're going to draw names for our Secret Santa, or we're going to pick out the tree. We're going to decorate the tree. We're going to go to this concert or something like that. We're going to have this celebration. We're going to be part of it, and it's going to bond us as a family or as a couple or just as a community altogether.
Yeah. It's plot point wise, there's always a theme. There's always a consistent plot. There are certain plot turning points that always happen, right? Like you said, it's almost always the woman who goes to the big city from the small town to get some job in advertising or some other, nebulous but thriving job, becomes disillusioned in some way, returns back to the small town, usually to encounter a previous boyfriend who is now, running a stand at a farm, at a farm stand, or doing something where he is handy, right? It's some kind of construction job, and not construction in the sense of building, buildings, but a carpenter, right? Or a repair guy, or somebody who's doing something with his hands, who has some practical knowledge, okay? Which is something we see in preservers all the time. In fact, when I interview clients to try and understand their instinctual bias, I ask them what they do for fun. And one of the leading indicators of somebody who's preserving, for a man in particular, is they do things with their hands. Right? It might be gardening. It might be fixing things. It might be, building things, whatever, as a hobby. And almost every male character who's the love interest is a guy who does something with his hands, meaning he's a preserver.
Yeah, it's interesting because in my kind of research into how preserving shows up in movies and TV shows, Hallmark movies are one of the only places I can think of at the top of my head where it's presented in a positive way.
Yes.
Someone is practical, they're handy, or they live in a good home, and that's a good thing.
Yes.
Usually it's presented as this person's fussy and neurotic. It takes them 10 minutes to order a sandwich.
Yes.
They probably got OCD. Like that's the implication. Like they can't do this unless their eggs are cooked a certain way, and they'll flip out, that kind of thing. Whereas in Hallmark, it's like, no, this is a good thing. These are good things for people to have. They're helpful to engage. They're warm. They're nurturing. They're a way to express love. And at their best, they are, whether it's on screen or in real life.
Yeah. That's really interesting because, and I hadn't thought about this point before, but the entertainment industry, in particular Hollywood, is very much a transmitting industry, right? So there's a transmitting mindset. And one of the things we see in transmitters is this zone of inner conflict around the preserving domain. And what happens when people have a zone of when people have this inner conflict about an instinctual domain is they will deprecate it. Right. And, we're going to do an episode on Get Shorty. And this is one of the things that comes up in that movie is because it's very much a navigating movie, it is dismissive of transmitters. Okay. And so in a transmitting culture, you're going to see this dismissiveness of the preserving stuff in the ways that you're talking about. Right. It's, I know it's important, but who's going to spend their time doing that kind of thing? Right.
Exactly.
But Hallmark has built a brand around it.
And Hallmark movies, from my very limited sample size, contain no transmitting of any kind.
No, there is
Nobody's trying to shine. Nobody's trying to make it big. If anything, it's the solution that the woman was trying to make it big in the big city to come back and realize, wait a minute, this is where I'm happy. At home, in my small town, with this guy who runs a small business. This is the life for me, not living in Chicago or New York and making big. Yes. That was a false dream. I'm happy to let go of that.
Yes. There's an innocent romance happening, but there's never any sex or sexual tension or, innuendo. The women are attractive. Everybody's attractive, but, the protagonist females are always beautiful, but not flashy, right? They're
exactly.
not, they're not that transmitting. You'll never see Sofia Vergara playing, a lead in a Hallmark movie, right? Or Angelina
anyone who
Jolie.
Looks or feels like.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
And but they're the kind of women you want to marry, right? And that's very much preserving. The other thing we see in these is that there is a consistent plot, right? Like I said, I've seen a million pieces of Hallmark movies, but I've never seen a whole one. But I know the beats, right? There's the meet cute. There's the silly misunderstanding that happens, right? And that kind of creates tension between the male and female leads. And then there's the reconciliation, very often facilitated by a best friend. Okay. And there's this sort of, ambiguous happy ever after, right? That, everything's going to be fine. And we assume that, they're going to end up together and have a life together, but that's not the point of it, right? That's, that completion of the romance is just not something that's of interest.
And that is by design.
Yeah.
And something that is very deliberate with all of these movies is, as you've experienced, you can get them whether you're actually watching them or not. So you can be doing housework, you can take a phone call, you can pay attention to your pet or your child if they need something while the thing's playing, because they're generally watched as broadcast. They're not like there's no theatrical release for them. You don't need to focus on them. Yeah. And the characters at some point will simply state the plot.
Yeah.
So that you can catch up if you just tuned in partway through. And as you said before, this is comfort food. That's the purpose of it. And it is in very many ways a parallel to like having a fire going or a video of a fire going. It's nice to have on. It feels good when you look at it. You feel happy. If you're looking away, it's still there in the periphery of your attention.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. It really is something that creates a feeling of stability and consistency and safety and, cocooning, right? It's just this, I feel okay in my cocoon while I'm watching this. It reminds me, there's also just from a production perspective, they are produced in a way that is very factory-like, right? Number one, they're all the same length. They've all got the same beats. The music is interchangeable, right? The music is never specific to the plot point, right? It's not highly dramatic at dramatic points. It's not, sorrowful and baleful at the, brain cancer in the kid point, because there is none of that stuff, right? It's all right down the middle. Nobody ever gets sick, like you said. There's never any, huge things.
Healthy, preserving.
Yeah, and so the music can just be interchangeable and irrelevant, but just background noise. So from a production expense, perspective, that's kind of cheaper to do, right? All the lines are overdubbed. Okay, so it's not voice recording done in real time. They, it almost, when you're watching these, it sounds like you're watching a dubbed foreign film, because it's. Yeah, I know that's their voices and I know that's them talking, but I don't hear any background noise. I don't see anything, right? So that they're just overdubbing these things. They have a stable of actors and actresses who reappear over and over and over again and build a loyal following in the fans, right? It's like, oh yeah, I like her. Like Danica McKellar, I think her name is, who was in Wonder Years. She's in a bunch of those movies. Okay. The young woman that was in Party of Five, played the youngest sister. She's in tons of those movies. And it's comfortable. I see the same person playing all these different characters over and over again. And it just feels okay because I like her. I'm comfortable with her. She's non-threatening and all that sort of thing. It almost makes me think of kind of the Run Run Shaw movies of the 1970s in Hong Kong, right? Where they just, okay, we're filming this scene for this movie here. Okay, we're done this. We're going to bring in the crew for the next movie because we got a scene at the same place, all the sort of thing. We're just going to change it around just a little bit, but we got to keep this factory working. And that's how the Hallmark movies feel to me as well.
Well, the similarity that you point out, like I hadn't realized that about the casting. What came to mind for me was the domestic sitcoms that I watched as a kid in the 80s. Mm-hmm. So similarly, home and family. That's the theme.
Yeah.
Your family loves you. We will solve all problems. There's no major health problems. There's no major conflicts that can't be resolved in 24 minutes. We love each other. We come back together. There's small conflicts. We figure it out. and this airs at a certain time or in reruns, and you can just have it on or you can watch it actively. And it's comfort. It helps you feel okay and cozy when you're at home.
Yes.
All is well. And let's reassure you with the messages that you want to hear.
Yeah.
And there's value in that. Like I said, it's easy to sneer at that. But like, it's a hard world for a lot of people. And whether this reflects somebody's actual experience who's watching it, or whether it's aspirational or just this escape that they can have, so that for this hour and a half, I can get away from the fact that I'm having trouble with my health or paying the bills or anything like that. Like, there's huge value.
Absolutely. Just like I like to watch stupid movies where lots of things blow up, sometimes just because it allows me to veg out and be, stimulated. If your thing is, more nesting and nurturing oriented, I wish I could recommend a particular Hallmark movie, but I don't know the titles of any of them. So I can't say, oh yeah, you've got to see Christmas in Denmark, because I don't know. But what I will say is, if you really, really want to understand what the Preserving Instinctual Bias is all about, spend some time on the Hallmark Channel.
And I will add that there are other elements of preserving that we will talk about in the future. I think horror movies and monster movies are about a different element of preserving, which is, how do I stay alive when something is actively trying to kill me?
Yes.
So very different field in Hallmark movies, different aspect of preserving.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Good stuff, TJ.
Thank you so much.
All right. So long.